holidays to you.
Well, let's call the meeting to order. Matt, you can give us an update. We'll start with the police station.
All right, the police station. It's starting to do finish work, which is great.
Who's this? What is that?
It's Coles.
Ah.
Coles. Got a hammer?
Starting to do finish work. They're tiling. They started installing the bases for the rolling file storage. They're putting up the ceiling grids. The Metacomet has put in all their dispatch stations, so we're actively working on all that. We have some holdups. Excuse me really quick, Cole. I put your phone on mute because it was going off on the side. It's really looking like a building now. They have paint everywhere. The ceiling grids are almost done. We do have some hiccups right now. We're waiting on some final fire stopping to be done. We're also waiting on the HVAC contractor to come back and do some work, but they want us to be a little further ahead. But everybody seems to be there and working hard and plugging away, so it's starting to look like close to a finished product now. You can definitely see it. As far as the site work, we're just about completed. The granite signs were supposed to come in today. They got delayed, so hopefully they'll be in Norfolk Thursday and hopefully installed by next week. So take a ride up there and take a look at it. Other than that, the site work's pretty much done. In the springtime, we're going to probably hit it with some more hydro seed and just a couple odds and ends, but we're in good shape. But the building, it's just everybody's plugging along. There's been consistent amount of contractors there. Going to see it coming closer right now. They're hanging up the lights down the hallways, and we've been working with Cressa to pick out some finishes. We're going to put carpet in offices, so we're working on a price on putting carpet in the offices and making some modifications to the interior design. But I still think we're going to be end of January, beginning of February.
Good.
Ready for us to move in. We have some hiccups, like we do need to get septic approved. We have some permitting stuff that we're going to have to deal with, but we should be able to be ready.
And just a question for Bob. Do we need the planning board's approval before we can get full occupancy?
Yeah, we're supposed to have them give their okay for the site plan. We've already set that
Do
meeting
you
up.
take care of that?
No, usually whoever the applicant is, so, I mean,
So,
we can do it, we can,
I have Rick Goudreau.
yep.
He has to do an as-built of all the elevations out there, so I can submit it.
Good draw.
Goudreau?
Good draw, yeah.
Goudreau. Rick is, we're on his schedule to come out and do a complete as-built, all the elevations, and put it all, that way we can submit it to the planning board and obviously the building commissioner and the health department.
So, to George's point, we're gonna make sure that that's all done prior to,
That's all on the, as soon as I get the as-built elevations, I can start submitting all that. I'm hoping Rick had indicated that it should be by month's end, so.
okay.
And assuming we move in, January 1st, February, when does the Metacomet move in and take over?
Well, they're hoping to move in about the same time, but they're
Okay.
not going live
Okay,
until they're done with all their training.
okay.
So they have a lot of procedures and training, so they're gonna be a couple months behind us as far as going live.
But they'll be occupying the building.
Yes.
I think Gary would tell you they targeted April 2nd, was it? First or second?
We want to dispatch our first call April 2nd. We're still working that out with the state now department. We should have a firmed up schedule shortly. We're meeting with them tomorrow after the board of directors meeting.
I was over there, I don't remember whether it was, they're all cloudy together, I think it was yesterday, but it might have been the day before. That was yesterday. It's impressive, all the equipment you have up there now.
It's coming together.
Yeah. That's a lot of stuff.
I haven't done yet. That's just the shell. We just started.
I know. And congratulations, you've hired your lead person, that's good news for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to announce that at tomorrow's board of directors meeting, but we've hired Sheila Joyce as our manager. She comes to us from the town of Rentham.
We had a chance to meet her the other day, and
Yes.
good. It'd be exciting.
It is. Been a long 10 years.
If you guys haven't seen it, it looks like NASA Control Center over in the Metacomet now. It's quite cool. So,
Yeah, it makes the poor police station look a little barren when you got all that stuff up there.
so
I'm gonna, just for the change of the last 12 months, go to an optimistic mode. When can we need to do something to commemorate the opening of this facility. Any thoughts on how, when, and what you want to do, Mr. Chairman?
I hadn't even thought about it, to be honest with you.
We need to do something.
Yeah.
Well, I think before you
A
do.
ribbon cutting kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm just being optimistic for
Yes.
10 minutes,
Finish-
Chuck. Let me be
finish.
optimistic for 10 minutes.
would you guys be interested in entertaining doing a late opening event? So that way we can have it all after the springtime when we put on the top coat, get the grass green in there, have a nice function there?
Sure.
Yeah, that's
Sure,
fine.
and,
That would
and
be-
something that
that
the
would be my
public, I
preference.
mean, invite people down to see where their tax dollars have gone.
We should probably get the same invite list for the ribbon cutting for the groundbreaking to get down as well, and we could definitely work on those details. But I would suggest, because it's going to be miserable, you won't see anything until spring.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. April, though, do it in April. Do it before it gets, yeah, April, let's plan on April would be my
Okay.
guess.
All right.
That would be thrilled.
Yeah.
Sure, I will work on that.
So is,
Go ahead.
is there anything else, I mean, pretty current on what's going on? I mean, I know we're in the home stretch here, and it does look great, Mike, thank you. It really does look good.
So right now, we don't have
To
it,
hire all tall police officers, right? We won't go there. We're donating stools.
we don't have a requisition,
No, we do not.
so I can't have us vote on that, but we do have a change order request in the amount for Norfolk for $31,575.78. These are details that were discovered that needed to be addressed once construction commenced. I believe everything seems to be in line and fair. So I'm recommending that we go ahead and pass this. If anybody has any questions, should be able to field them for you.
I move to pass change orders numbered 68 through 80 in the total amount of $31,575.78.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
So, right now, we're plugging along, and not really too much more to go into about the police station. We are also currently working on, with the Metacomet, a contract between the Facilities Department of Norfolk and the Building Maintenance, providing a service for the Metacomet. I just sent a rough draft to Gary and Daryl, outlining, and we're gonna obviously charge a fee. And so we're gonna be doing that, and it'll help offset our operating costs of the building as well.
And we do have the lease done too, so
Good.
Yep,
we're in good shape there.
lease is executed.
Excellent. Brian?
I do know that Matt mentioned that the road sign is gonna be going in Thursday. I had mentioned to BC Construction that we recommend that install the sign, but we recommend that you cover that sign. So I've asked them to wrap the sign once it gets installed.
This is the one down on 1A?
No, it would be the one at the entrance that says Norfolk Police. We don't want people to drive by thinking that that's a police
Yeah,
facility
cover too.
until it's
Officially
occupied.
open.
That makes sense.
Makes sense.
So we have asked Mike to wrap the sign. We would do the same for any lettering that's on the building. If they install it before occupancy, we would want that covered until there's police in the building.
And I know we talked about this, but there is gonna be a sign down on 1A, right? On the corner?
As far as a road sign,
I thought we discussed that.
I thought that was part of the planning board.
Well, it makes sense, but
I haven't ordered one, it'd be a simple,
I don't know.
Well, it doesn't have to be, I mean, we,
Probably, it makes sense.
there needs to be some
Yeah.
indication
Yeah.
that there's a police station up
definitely put like
there.
a
Yeah.
blue police with a,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, that'd be
It can just be
simple to do. Yep.
police.
Yeah.
with an arrow.
Um,
That's okay.
Definitely, I can get that.
There needs to be something to indicate where it is.
Sure. So, but what we were talking about, the other ones though, we have 2 granite signs. So one when you're coming up Sharon Ave, it's a single-sided one. And then we have the exact same sign, but double-sided. So when you're coming from Shire Drive into it, it's a double-sided.
Yeah.
So they should be really sharp, and we shopped it out a lot, and we're doing granite, which is actually the least expensive option, and hopefully should last the longest. So, which is pretty cool. But I will have the signage. And the DPW, just as a side note, the citizens on Sharon, obviously they know where they live, but there are a lot of truck traffic, and not necessarily from us, but just because it's an industrial park going through there. So Chuck and Bob Bullock, and Bob McGee, not Bob Bullock, Bob McGee, came up with a plan, and they put a couple of signs there for no commercial traffic, which I know made the local residents very happy to try to help mitigate some of their concerns. Short money.
Yeah, I saw those. signs.
There's a note, there's a
They're up
note.
already.
Yeah,
They're already up at
They're
the end of
already
the
up.
street,
yeah, I saw
down
it.
at, right next to the Gulf Station.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're not supposed to have truck
Like
traffic.
no truck traffic,
right.
no truck traffic.
So they added some additional signage, which will buy us a lot of favor, because I've received several complaints by the neighbors there. They all have my card, so I always try to help out, but
Okay.
that was something that he asked for, and we did it, so short money solution, hopefully.
Right, it's not any inconvenience to the truckers.
No. If they read it, that's the other story.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, they read it after they make the turn.
Yeah, sort of like
Yeah.
Starrow Drive, it's too low.
That's only when the kids move in. With the U-Hauls.
But that's all I have on this project.
Okay. Oh, shall we move on to the fire
Oh, please.
station?
Yes.
Go for it.
It's time to start talking about the fire station. Well, we have some tentative plans. Plan C
That was the last plan, I believe.
was the
that's-
last plan that we talked about,
Yes.
and I don't believe you've done the complete pricing on that. I think we stopped you, not to your choice, but to ours, if I recall.
When you say pricing, we had done a cost estimate.
And what was that cost estimate?
I would have to pull it out again, Jim. I have it in my files, but I don't have.
5.3.
Yeah, I was.
That sounds right.
One of the issues that has been raised is it less, and we may have asked this, but we've been a little preoccupied for the last year and a half, so I don't remember. Several people have suggested that it would be less expensive and more efficient to tear down the main building, just demolish it, and build a new building 2 stories. Still considering the bays, and keeping the bays on the other side. And I know you can't give an estimate to something you haven't drawn up, but is this a feasible alternative to consider?
In some instances, the level of renovation, if you're gonna go extensive renovation, would be close to the cost of new construction. You'd have to factor in cost of demolition and removal. So without knowing what that solution is, it could be an accurate statement.
Well, is it worth taking a look at?
I would say if you want us to take a look at it, that would be something we could take a look at.
You'd have to consider relocation for a while, too.
Well,
Right.
as Cole will recall, we had discussions around that way back, when we were looking at it as one building for both processes, and there is while we have to revisit it and refine it, there is a strategy to deal with that. And it would involve the DPW, housing the trucks and so on. Am I too off base on that, Cole? We did have a,
That was way back.
but not being a construction engineer, or whatever the appropriate term is, if that is something that's viable as an option, it certainly gives us a lot more design flexibility, and it eliminates a lot of the concerns we have with that, what is really a very old building with asbestos and other concerns as well.
guess your end goal, if your end goal is to bring it in at a lower price,
Think of
That
it,
would-
think of it as the same price.
okay.
I mean, obviously, we'd like to get anything lower, and that hasn't worked out so far. But that's not the point of the message, is which is the most efficient way to build the building and give us the best building we can get, but not, what I wouldn't want to consider an option that was more than the original plan.
We're doing it similar in another community, but the cost of relocation, they had to lease space. So that has to be factored into the whole equation.
We don't have that issue.
So if you don't have the lease up requirement, that would help.
I mean, there'd be some costs, obviously, because
Logistically, I mean, we could look into it, and in all due respect to Jim, and certainly, you know, in fairness, I mean, we're late in the ballgame, and we clearly have to look at all the options before we decide to put a shovel in the ground. And if we don't do that, we could put ourselves in, you know, clearly a perilous situation in the project, which I don't think we can afford to do. And so as we try to move this project forward, in deference to the committee, I think we need to ensure that the plan that goes forward is one that meets the needs of the fire department and is fiscally responsible in terms of what we have to work with.
Well, renovating, the concept that we had was considering a phased approach. So-
Chief, can I just ask a point of clarification? Does that statement mean you agree we should look at the alternative, or we shouldn't?
Sorry. As nebulous as that last comment was, let me try to clarify that, yes, I agree with my esteemed colleagues sitting at the head of the table.
You said indifference, so that.
You did, you said indifference, so I lost you.
I was using it in a different colloquial sense, I'm sorry.
So we were
Bring the
considering it
thesaurus
to
out.
be a phased project, because we were considering that they would have had to build new while they were still occupied in the existing building.
Right.
So just removing them from the site is gonna reduce costs, because contractors would love to just take the whole site and take it over and then not have to phase the project. Phasing the project's gonna extend construction and cost money, so just getting them off that site is gonna be a benefit.
Well, if you're telling me that it's a viable consideration as an alternative, that won't cost more than the original plan, and again, I'm not asking for less, I'm just saying won't cost more, I think we ought to take a look. I would think it would be quicker, more efficient. Logic would tell me that it, and again, not my business. Mike, you're shaking your head yes, and it is your business, so I respect your opinion on
Yeah,
this.
Mike, what is your opinion on this? You have a lot
I
of
think
experience.
It's a viable option, absolutely. Because Brian can take different building materials and lower cost that way as well. There's all kinds of things you can do to that building if it's coming from the ground up.
And we could do 2 stories and use less footprint,
And we,
solve the problem of a training room, things of that nature, that, without having to give up bays. I mean, it just seemed to me that we could get a lot more done at a, I'll just say the same cost, for lack of a discussion, not more money, that would be more efficient and a better station when we're said and done.
You can definitely get a better facility. I think you're well aware that anytime you do a renovation, the contingency budget, it has to be much higher. Because you don't know what you're gonna find.
Right.
And that building's an old building. And I would definitely have Brian look into a new building.
And Matt has been an advocate of that approach.
so I think it would, well, I like to phase it. I'd like to leave the current apparatus bay alone and operate out of that for the time being. Put a operations trailer behind there so they can still operate the fire station, because we're gonna be out with dispatch. Let the apparatus bay lie how it is. Build a new structure adjacent to it, just like they did the garden, right on them. Build your apparatus bay that you want, offices and quarters up there, training upstairs. Have that go live, then we can shift all the apparatus that need to be climate controlled into the new bay, and then they can capture the rest of it. If we go with this approach, I also know we know what's underneath the ground. We're not gonna.
But I would go back to what Brian just said. Get them out.
Yeah.
It's gonna save you hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
If you have the option of moving them off the site, there's hundreds of thousands in savings there.
Chief, do you agree that that's a viable option?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it at one time, and obviously, we're gonna have to take the trailer and move it up to Medway Branch.
Right.
You're gonna have emergency vehicles on a residential street that,
It's on a residential
It's on
street now.
residential street now.
You're gonna move in with the police department?
Oh,
in
The
deference to
regional
Bob.
dispatch isn't going live for a couple of months, you could, no.
Uh-oh, he's back to the indifference.
You're talking quicker construction as well.
which at the end,
Okay, and
Which cost, yes, which saves you money. Taking them off the site completely reduces that construction time.
And that apparatus bay that we have talked about trying to save, it's still 55 years old. You can see the cracks in the wall. It's a flat roof in New England, you know, it's like,
it's definitely something.
and the issue that the major issue that the flow of the original design was kind of interesting, how it didn't really flow ideally for your guys' mission, and that was, if we did something like this, we'd have it completely flow better.
Well, this is the plan we originally talked about, the one, scheme C, if I remember correctly. And this was the original footprint of the building. We took out 2 bays to accommodate physical training and a training room. If we go up a second story, both those could go on the second story, and I'm just assuming a similar layout down on the first floor. But they wouldn't take up half of what the space would be if you used the same footprint on the second story, which means that this could be moved in and offices could be moved up. So we actually make a smaller footprint if we go to a second story.
And there is a ruling in Massachusetts, if you limit just fire department personnel to the second floor, you don't need accessibility to the second floor.
That helps too.
So you would not require an elevator.
but what about if you had a training room up on, is the training room on the second floor in your thought process? Or?
If you don't bring public up to that floor, if you bring public up to that floor, you need an elevator,
Well, do you consider other firefighters in other towns public or not public?
but it's public.
Well, the other issue that's gonna go hand in hand is that there needs to be presence on the first floor.
Right.
And that would be probably myself and the administrative assistant at minimum, so that we have an ability to greet people coming in, so that there's gonna have to be some accommodation made for that along with the bays, so that needs to be figured in. Then from there, I mean, if you add a third office for future use by quote-unquote fire prevention, then at that point, the upper level is occupied solely by staff. And then the other configuration, and Jim and I have had a sidebar on this, the bay configuration that's been submitted, the 3 bays drive through, handle the bulk of the rolling stock, then the existing garage, or at least the existing footprint of the existing garage. The 2 bays facilitate the placement of smaller pieces, and then we still have the area to have the training room and the exercise area back on that first floor. There seriously won't be an expansion, and again, Jim and I have had this conversation. There's never going to be an expansion of apparatus or rolling stock here. I mean, if anything, as time goes on, there will probably be a reduction in terms of rolling stock. So I can't foresee, and would certainly be willing to, put my limited reputation on the line, that's an adequate format. And I think what Jim is saying is that, we move those 3 bays over, we join them to either the footprint of a new section there, or, somehow to the existing, so that it's repaired, so that, it's gonna stand the test of time. Come up with a means to add some office space or the ability to use the first floor for greeting the public, and the second floor goes entirely to staff usage. That's probably a way around it. Mike seemed to concur with that as well.
Well, that goes right on. I mean, I'm just looking at this, which isn't, it's at least reasonably close in terms of measurement. If you put a second floor on this building, and this being the original footprint, you've got all your office space on the front. You could easily put the training room on the first floor. In the back part without any problem. You could put all of the staff offices and the physical training and the bathrooms and all the facilities, the showers, all that stuff on the second floor. This section that's next to the bay can come right in here into the right-hand side of this building. You've now got a smaller, it's smaller.
Yeah, you reduce your.
And smaller in terms of footprint,
Right.
bigger in terms of
Oh, maybe I was
opportunity.
confused. I was thinking what you were talking about, Jim, was to actually.
This over,
Actually
this
take this
in.
and put it here.
yeah,
Okay.
that's, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. I mean, makes a lot of sense to me, but I'm not a builder, so I trust the judgment of
Is
folks
there a
that are.
problem having like sleeping quarters above the bays, above the, you know, the,
No, we just.
I know
did
some
that.
towns have had problems, but those are older buildings too,
We just did that in Grange, we did,
right?
sleeper quarters above the bays.
Okay.
It's a long way down.
But that would get the physical training room and the training room yourself, you know, everything would be new.
Yeah, we could do a lot.
I
I think it's worth
really
exploring.
think we should take a serious look at this.
We could, that's a different direction. We could.
I mean, now's the time.
Yep.
I mean, the long term is it's a 2.5 acre site, and you want to make sure you have adequate parking. They got four people on some shifts, and in the future, you don't know how many, so you want to make sure there's parking. You had a training session there from out of town, you want to make sure you have enough parking for people on site. You don't want to be lining the streets if at all possible. I just think if you can condense that thing with an all-new building, that would be better.
And Parking's always been an issue, so.
Yeah, it's
You know,
it's
the
an issue now, and it's always
acquisition of
gonna
that
be.
church property, you know, in the end, solves that problem right there.
Well, we were renovating it to the degree of new construction.
How quickly can we take a good look at this? Because we're anxious to get this going now.
I don't think it would take us that long, middle of January.
It's only giving yourself a couple, you have the holidays, is that okay?
Yeah, but I think we're talking about an equation of square footage, massing, and cost.
Just a schematic,
Correct.
We
yeah.
don't need a whole,
No, we don't need-
I'm
no,
sure
agreed.
demolition is
Door and
like per
wall.
square foot,
Agreed.
figure that out pretty quick.
Just to tell us whether it's a viable option.
here's a mass that can accommodate your square footage, put the functions on different floors, and I don't think it should take that long.
I'd like the ability to interface with Brian as he goes through the
Sure,
process as well.
of course, sure.
We're gonna be joined at the hip, Brian.
Next Tuesday, we're gonna start.
Ready.
Tuesday's good.
I'll meet you in your office in Berlin.
There's nothing going on Tuesday.
It's a quiet day. Won't be much traffic.
I'll come up Route 9.
So, mid-January, we can have some understanding of whether this is a good option or not.
Yeah, just give you a general idea of where and how big, and I think the real question you wanted answered is this at or less than the cost of what we were originally proposing?
Yes.
Correct.
And better served, too. I mean,
It's
that,
gonna be a
that's,
better building, I think.
that's my point. This,
Newer, all new, better building.
right, I mean, I know there are legitimate concerns about training room and all of that, and they're viable. And so, trying to find a way to do that,
Well, in the original scheme C, if you were to complete that renovation, you'd be walking into all new finishes, all new mechanical. What we would save would be the structure. You wanted a new roof, so we would be bringing that building up to new construction as far as, you're not gonna walk in and know that this is a renovation and that's a new.
no, I
construction.
understand, I know that,
So
I know that.
It's gonna be all new from the degree of finishes and the look of the building.
There's a realistic concern of what we're actually gonna run into.
It's just whether it functions for you or not.
This is a very simplistic,
We had to work around a lot of existing conditions, so if it really doesn't function, if we're trying to just put a square peg in a round hole, then, yeah, why are you gonna put all your money toward that solution? That would be up to you to look at it and say, I don't like the way it functions, I don't like the way it flows, it just doesn't work for us. Then we could blow it up and get rid of it.
well, there were some walls you couldn't move in
Right.
this building. And so it forced us to make some design
Right.
issues that weren't probably the best option. But if I just did, and I was playing with this the other night, if I just did a cutout, and I just did literally a cutout of this and moved these boxes around and put a second story on, I came up with a smaller footprint and a more efficient building.
And you would, and I think that's an accurate statement. We're already dealing with a building that's been added onto and renovated once before. So now it's gone through one iteration, now it's gonna have to go through another. So we're back looking at, the original construction of that building was a precast plank on a really rectangular shape. You can still see that shape within that renovation.
Absolutely.
It has to stay there. The precast plank is sitting on structural walls, so
Yep.
those things we had to work around.
I understand. So Mike, we're not crazy.
No, I would
He's not qualified to answer that.
spend the money to have the architect look at that option. And then
Yeah.
just so you guys make an informed decision.
Yeah.
And like you said,
Mike?
Jimmy,
Mike.
you're gonna get a better flow to the
No, that
building.
much.
Brian can move things a lot easier than he could with.
And get your department all of the things that they want in that building in a more efficient way.
There's all kinds of material options Brian could use to dampen it down.
Well, now, the one really impressed thing that I have, that I've been with this new building, is I love those insulated metal panels. As far as, you can walk into that building, we have minimal heaters on there, and the building's toasty. Obviously, I don't think we could do that in the front, because we're in downtown, but I think if we were to look at a solution to do like the three sides of those, do some sort of facade on it, but build it in the same energy efficient way, I mean, I think that'll also help out the construction of the newer material.
Let's get on it, get this thing going.
Well, you really want to do radiant heat
Radiant, yeah,
in the apparatus area. Yeah.
Big savings.
and on the apron.
And I know,
No,
your
no,
team
no,
that's
okay.
here, and I know you've been concerned over all this and so on, and we're gonna get this done.
I had a few customers that did that apron stuff, and when they go through about 400 gallons per storm, they said, that's enough of that. We can pay for the plow.
I mean, if you're confident, and I do remember the conversation we had in detail on this, that we could relocate minimal cost, use the DPW facility, I remember how we chatted
It's
all
pain-
through that.
It's, granted, it's painful, but
Yeah.
if that's what we have to do,
But if
the
it gets us to the better solution, with a brand-new facility, with all the things you want,
logistics, we have to overcome.
but
Maybe
we're gonna need,
short-term
we're gonna
pain,
need a
but
happy
it'd be
support.
Better overall, I think, in the end.
The biggest issue is going to be moving the trailer and obviously getting that connected. I mean, that's a big
We'll
expense.
figure that out.
That would, as far as those logistics, not hard, just figuring out the operations, that'll be the hard part, the moving, that's a couple phone calls.
Who gets to talk to Mr. McGee?
We'll work with Mr. McGee. But bottom line is, from your perspective, you're the chief, that is a doable, viable
Oh, yeah.
option.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
I
And I
agree.
won't use indeference.
Oh,
thank you.
2 floors
Because all that
instead of
does is
spread out.
confuse me.
Well, because everything's brand new.
Just
You can
another
make it
option.
more
Oh,
efficient.
that
Yeah.
too.
It's been less painful. See a way we have that whole parking area that's not been finished, that gives you a little bit more, another option that might not interfere with somebody else's operation.
So comfortable.
But then the apparatus is up the street. How do we get to it?
Mr. Diamond?
What's that?
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
Hey, Peter, you've been sort of a de facto member. You have a thought on this?
Seems like a good idea. We talking type 3 construction here, I think, Bob, protected, something to save some money.
We have to Brian.
If you asked me initially, I would have said type 2, but,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think they did the fire station in Millis out of wood and the police station, so
Yeah, sometimes we go with a truss roof on it, but I would originally, if you asked me quickly, I would have said, I would have gone with type 2.
yeah. And
Hey.
it can save money.
Yeah.
But Pete, you've been intimately involved in that, I value your thoughts. Does this not seem like a viable option to look at?
Does seem like an option.
Certainly, taking down that existing garage and working on that footprint, lightweight construction coming back in, because there's nothing's going to go on top of it. So that should be fairly easy. And as far as the exterior walls, that can be made up in any way.
Type 2 would be structural steel frame, metal stud, and then any cladding on the outside of it. It's whether you introduce any wood into the construction. I would tend to say structural steel frame with metal stud.
You roll bar joists and you're all set to go.
There's heavy equipment underneath there, I would
Now I
think
could
type
get
2 would be the way to
excited about
go.
the
We'll see.
Really anything under it. 2 bays worth of,
Fire trucks,
Yeah,
like, be cars.
And better.
No apparatus will be actually under there.
My wife thought I was
2
crazy.
engines,
I was
the
cutting
ladder,
these boxes at home.
That's, I think that's correct.
tanker,
That's assumption.
and both ambulances.
so
1 to 3 bays.
Yeah.
may I propose then, we schedule the next building committee meeting,
Yes.
Please.
January 22nd at 4 PM or at 3 PM, whatever works best for people.
That's a Tuesday?
It's a Tuesday. We have a site meeting on the 8th, and I don't think that would be enough time for Brian to,
What's the date again, please, Matt?
I'm thinking the
Second.
22nd.
4 o'clock.
22nd, I can report on the fire station.
Good.
Okay.
22nd,
What time?
4.
I'll put it on, I think when I sent out the reminder, I'd already scheduled through my government website for this room. And when I sent out the reminder, I think that's what bounced everything. That's why I canceled today, because I'd already had the room reserved. So I tried to, and that's where it's in the automatic message out.
I thought it was just Chuck didn't want to come.
No, that would not be.
22nd, 4 o'clock.
1600.
And you'll be in a position then to give us at least a fairly good guesstimate?
Conceptual
Say guesstimate as to the viability of this option?
And Brian,
Part
we're,
of that answer, I would recommend I go back to my cost estimator and have a look at the original estimate also,
okay,
because there's been some time
right.
Yep,
that's delayed the project.
okay.
And assume relocation as far as,
Assume relocation,
for
but
the
I'm
second
not
project.
assuming any cost of relocation, right?
No, don't assume any cost of relocation.
I'm assuming that you can get off-site and the contractor can have this, the
Correct.
whole use of the
That's
site.
gonna keep the cost down.
That's good.
Yeah,
And that's a big deal, Mike?
It's big.
Oh, that's huge.
yeah,
You're talking about safety factors.
yeah.
You're not worrying about people being on the site. It's, once the site's closed, contractor owns it, there's a lot of things that could take place. Staging areas, you could bring more materials, more equipment to get people moving on that. It's a huge savings to you.
I'm all in favor of that.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Let's get this going.
Anything else?
No, sir, not for me.
Nothing?
I've done enough harm for one day.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We are adjourned.